Hello, everyone. I'm back. I'm here to talk to you all about the nodal shift again. It is such a big topic, and I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of really great questions about the nodes. So that tells me that y'all are interested in it and want to know more. So, this video, I'm going to go through the nodes in each house. So, this will be important for you to know what your rising sign is. If you don't know your chart, if you don't know where the Aries Libra axis is in your chart, you can go to a website like astro.com and get your chart mapped out so that you can see what your rising sign is, because that will determine roughly what house the nodes will be in for you. I use the Placidus house system, which makes all the houses all kinds of crazy shapes and is based off of the latitudinal position of where you were born. So if you're born further north or south of the equator, your houses tend to get wonky, which is why a lot of astrologers don't like to use the Placidus house system. However, I was taught to just learn one way and then do it and then become very proficient at that one way. So that's what I've been doing. I learned with Placidus. It's been working for me, and I'm just going to continue to use it. That doesn't mean that you can't, or that you can't use other house systems. I think it's all an experiment. So anyway, the chart that I'm going to use, however, for the transits is in whole sign, and that will just be a lot easier. So you'll want to know roughly where Aries is in your chart, where the majority of Aries is for you. I'm going to go through each of the houses so that you can get a sense of what the north and south nodes are bringing in for you for the next year and a half. So just a quick rundown on the nodes and what they represent, what they mean, and a little bit of their backstory is that the nodes are the literal north and south node of the moon, and we track them in the natal chart to get a sense of what your history in a past life or early childhood upbringing was, which would have contributed to a lot of your personality traits, tendencies, habits, skills, latent talents, interests, what have you. And the north node in the chart, so those are all the south node traits, all the north node in the chart shows you where in this life you are to challenge yourself. Where in your life are you to incorporate more of the new way of existing? So the everyone has everyone will have their own north and south nodes in a different location, or maybe you do have your north node in Aries and your south node in Libra. That means that you would be having a nodal return, and or maybe you have your north node in Libra and your south node in Aries, which would be a nodal opposition. Those are all topics for another conversation. However, that's going to be really significant for you, and this video will help you to understand a bit more of what that means for you in your personal life and your chart. So another thing with the nodes to keep in mind is that wherever the nodes are is where the eclipses generally are going to occur for you throughout the next year and a half. So the next eclipse cycle is going to be in the fall or in October, Libra season for us, and then also in spring or in Aries season. What does the North Node in Aries represent? So I did a whole other video about that, and if you want to watch that in more depth, then you can watch that one on my channel. But in the general sense, the North Node in Aries is going to have us collectively shifting our focus towards Aries themes. And Aries themes are initiation, ambition, passion, drive, what you are putting yourself fully and wholly into, where in your life you just close your eyes and take the leap, where in your life you feel um, less likely to overthink or overanalyze, and also the part in your life where you don't have to over or worry or concern yourself too much with how other people think. And the South Node in Libra represents what we are integrating into ourselves, or what the information of Libra represents, how we're integrating that wisdom into our being so that we can utilize those traits of Libra to propel us towards Aries themes, which would be independence, it would be self-development, self-empowerment. So a lot of self words. And one thing that I'm not worried. However, as someone who has their North Node in Aries and their South Node in Libra and a Libra in general, I just worry that the emphasis on this nodal axis is going to be all about like letting go of relationships that don't serve you. Like, I'm concerned that's going to be a hot topic to talk about because it's just the easiest thing to peg on Libra, which is relationships. And the South Node represents what we're trying to walk away from or move away from. I like to think of it as integrating rather than moving away from, because the integration of that is what helps us to grow and evolve. So it's not that you're walking away from old relationships, but it's you're integrating the awareness and the information that those old relationships gave you so that you can develop a stronger sense of self and identity and security in who you are, which is Aries. Aries people are quite secure in themselves. They're independent, they know what they like, they go for what they want. Libra, on the other hand, often prefers to collaborate with another person or get another person's opinion, is oftentimes seeing the world through the lens of the other person's perspective, which can make it really confusing to make decisions when you're constantly balancing between your feelings and opinions and ideas and someone else's feelings, opinions, and ideas. It can be hard to it can be really hard to develop a strong understanding of your own personal stance or opinions on something. And so that's a part of the Libra that we are learning to overcome within ourselves. What parts of our lives do we maybe overanalyze, overthink, overcompromise? And what do we need to integrate within ourselves in order to become more confident in ourselves or independent? People who are in relationships, I think this is a really great time to understand yourself outside of the relationship so that you can bring in a stronger identity into the relationship to help it grow and evolve. People who are looking for relationships, you might find that focusing on your own development is going to be really influential and helpful. Also, collectively in general, we tend to hear more stories. We just tend to focus our attention on what the North Node themes are. So we may also see more stories, more awareness or education come in to view around Aries themes, which is the hero or the warrior. And where in society do we typically place that archetype? It's usually athletes, um, people who are using their physique, their body, to accomplish something. So, firefighters, even the military, and I'm like not trying to say police, but in some subsects, the police would be considered heroes. It depends on who you ask, but those are the types of general archetypes. Also, people who are self-made or people who have a very strong sense of purpose or direction, you'll hear a lot of stories that are motivating and inspiring from those arenas. Um, Also, kind of not really on the topic, but a little still on the topic, is the military, like I mentioned. So, a lot of focus on the military, perhaps critique and analysis on the military and what they are doing. Like, what are they doing? Where's the money going? Anyway, all right, well, let's get to it. I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. And as you'll see on the screen, I have just the outer planets with the nodes in there because I want to show the placement of the outer planets and their aspects to the nodes. So let's start with Scorpio rising because that's my rising sign. So we always start with Aries rising, and I want to do something different. So here we go. Scorpio rising. As you can see, the North Node is over here in the 6th house. The South Node is in Libra in the 12th house. So all of my Scorpio rising folk, or the Aries in your 6th house folk, you will be focusing a lot of your attention on initiating new job prospects and instigating and creating new avenues for yourself when it comes to work. Also, with the North Node in the 6th house is a significant focus on your healthcare regimen and your healthcare routine. So, a lot of your day is going to be focused on developing a stronger bond with your body and a stronger dialogue without compromising your needs or compromising your beliefs around what's good for you. So, for instance, let's say you go to the doctor and you get a health checkup and there's something that just doesn't feel right or sit right with you. All of the Scorpio risings, of course, you're already intuitive, are going to know what's good for you and what's not good for you based off of how you're instinctually feeling. So, and that's a very Aries type response. So, with Aries in the 6th house, what is that? Combativeness. It could be that you have to confront people within the 6th house arena, which is doctors, healthcare workers, employees, co-workers, people that you work with on a day-to-day basis, that you'll have to do a lot of initiating conversations with those people. Also, the 6th house is landlords, so you may have to also initiate compromise or figure out some sort of situation with a landlord. Again, without compromising your personal needs. And what that looks like is doing things, making decisions on a day-to-day basis based off of what is working for your health. If it's healthy for you, if it's not, if it's conducive to your well-being, then you have to get away from or integrate that Libran desire to people please and figure out a way to eloquently initiate or communicate what your needs are when it comes to your health. Also, with Aries in the 6th house is the focus on how you work. So typically Aries 6th house people would like to have freedom to move about during their day and not be trapped or hold up in someone else's plans. So that's also the initiation that you have to do, is you have to initiate what your plans are, initiate communication around those things, so that you can continue to have the freedom that you need in order to, think clearly, be creative, what have you. Next, we have Sagittarius rising. And Sagittarius rising has the North Node moving through the fifth house. How fun is that? When the North Node is moving through your fifth house, Sagittarius rising, it means that you're going to initiate connecting with people, initiate developing new friendships with people who share exactly the same interests as you. It also means that you're going to be activating your need to feel powerful and strong inside of your body. So you may develop or get into some more extreme physical contact sports, or even like kickboxing, karate, weightlifting, something that helps you to feel powerful and also allows you to feel your natural body's chemical response to being physically active. With the South Node in your 11th house, you may notice that you are less likely to compromise what your interests and desires are, whereas normally you would maybe compromise for the group. If the group wants to do something and you want to do something else, you may say, okay, well, I can do that today and then I can do whatever I want to do tomorrow. That's not necessarily the case. You're looking specifically for people who want to do exactly what you want to do and at the same time that you want to do it. And oftentimes too, when the South Node goes through the 11th house, you're reorienting or you're readjusting who you are within a group of friends. And sometimes that means that you end up letting go of some friendships or renegotiating the boundaries between you and your friends. But it's a really wonderful time to initiate conversation with them about what you are wanting more of when it comes to play, fun, adventure, things like that. You might be surprised they might be wanting the same things, but don't know how to access it. So you can be the gateway. So Capricorn rising, we have the North Node going through your fourth house of home and family. And with that, the home, of course, is highlighted. Sorry, I'm not glitching out. I'm just reading what I wrote. There's big changes with your priorities in life. So the Capricorns, the Aries, Cancers, and Libras are going to have big, sort of significant life shifts and changes throughout the next year and a half. And with Capricorn rising, you may notice that you actually are not as satisfied with the level of achievement or ambition that you previously had. And you're looking to initiate stronger bonds and contacts within your personal life and your relationships. When the North Node is going through your fourth house, it means that you're connecting with your roots, you're connecting with who you are on a deeper level and your inner landscape and inner world. So you're not as focused on external worldly success as much as you were before. And it could even be that because of these new different interests and changes in focus, you might find yourself wanting to leave your career or changing your career either for the time being or for indefinitely. It's a big refocusing on what your priorities are. And also when the North Node moves to the fourth house, you tend to have a lot more focus on your domestic life and home life and wanting to be more integrated inside the home. Let's see. Also true with your literal home may actually require more of your focus, more of your time, which pulls you out of focusing on the bigger ambitions that you typically would be looking at. Also with the South Node moving through your 10th house, it's learning how to, or it's not learning how to, sorry, it's re-evaluating your business alliances and business relationships that you've built, throughout the last, I would say probably at least 18 years. If you're not old enough for that, then you can consider the last 8.5, 9 years for that. Moving along, we have Aquarius rising. So with Aquarius rising, for the next year and a half, you'll be focused on initiating contact with siblings, your immediate community and friends, by actively reaching out to people and exploring new areas of your town. You may also find it exciting to dive into a new skill, learning how to do something you've always wanted to learn, but never had the time to do. There may also be moments when you realize that you are no longer interested in certain philosophical, political, or religious rhetoric that you normally engage in, which is a part of the inspiration to learn new things. With the North Node in the third house too, it's having a more focus on your communication and how you talk and how you come off to other people. With Aries as being the sign on your third house cusp of communication, it means that usually you're pretty quick to share what you think and your opinions. With the North Node, you're going to be not necessarily questioning that characteristic trait of yours, but really focusing on whether or not that is how you want to continue communicating with other people. So the way that you communicate and the way that you talk is very much a present focus. With Pisces rising, we have the North Node transiting your second house of money and finance. So when the North Node is moving through the second house for Pisces rising, it means that you're building a stronger relationship with your ability to make money and your financial independence and resilience. Any need to rely on others for validation regarding what you deserve is out the window. Also, you are fully meant to build courage in seeking what you want and going after it without waiting for someone to say when. Throughout the next year and a half, you will be confronting any money issues or wounds around money by taking a risk on yourself. So the big part of the South Node traveling through this 8th house is also taking the time to step away from constant analysis regarding your subconscious world. It's being more comfortable with taking action based off of your initial instinct and responses versus having to analyze and consider and think about and over critique where it came from, what it means, why it's there, all those things. Also, probably reorienting your therapeutic processes as well. You may see that you're not as interested in certain therapies that you were before, that you are wanting to do things a bit more simplistically, more simple, easy, and less complicated and dynamic, especially when it comes to your mental health and working with like traditional talk therapy and things like that, that you might just want to be more active and talk less, do more. Aries rising. So Aries rising puts the North Node in the first house. So when the North Node is traveling through your first house, Aries rising, it means that you are putting your focus on yourself first and foremost. All the focus is on you. All the focus is on how you show up in your own relationships, what you do in your relationships, how your actions affect your partner in your relationship, and how to reestablish and reintegrate a strong sense of self and independence while maintaining respect and cordial relations with your partner or any business partner that you're working with. Um, your relationships are going to change very, very drastically in the next year and a half, and you may find yourself gradually distancing from people who do not share the same interests and values as you. The next year and a half is a really great time for self-improvement and building a stronger relationship to yourself. So it's really getting to know you and getting to know how people view you as well. So this could be a great time to maybe even ask ask people what they think about you, ask people what their first initial response or reactions are to you, and then see if that fits with your sense of self or who you are, and then work to remold or work to develop that trait that you see as being very noble, that you want to incorporate into your very being. Also, with the North Node in the first house, it tends to make people a bit more self-conscious, a bit more conscious of the way you look and your physique and how you come off to people. You may find that you want to do some maybe radical changes to your body or how you look in order to feel as though you are integrated with that physical identity. So the physical identity matches the internal identity. Also, you may find that you are taking more action when it comes to you or putting yourself again first. Um, so going back to what I was talking about earlier with people who might be overgeneralizing this North Node, South Node, Libra, Aries, Libra axis by just generalizing and telling people to not focus on their relationships anymore and focus on themselves instead. As you can see, while we're going through the zodiac, that's not the case for everybody. However, with Aries rising, that very much is the case, actually. So for Aries rising people, yes, focus on yourself, focus on your independence, focus on who you are and how you show up in the world. And if those relationships match that way of perception, or you might even be looking at the people around you and reevaluating whether or not they're appropriate for you in your life anymore. So Taurus rising means that the North Node is in your 12th house of dreams, the unconscious, and this is getting comfortable with being alone. This is getting comfortable with being with your own thoughts and your own inner landscape. This is a time where you need to take care of your inner realm and reconnect with your spirituality through quiet contemplation and hanging out with yourself, doing things that you enjoy where you don't have to compromise your needs is the motive for the next year and a half. So some activities that can help you to explore your subconscious is meditation, of course. Some sort of physical activity can help you to focus your mind and find clarity. You may also notice that you're letting go of some health regimens that once helped you in order to find an alternative path. And with the South Node going through the 6th house, you may not be relying on other people's help as much when it comes to work or even in your day-to-day life, whereas maybe traditionally you would rely on help from somebody like a coworker or a partner to help you kind of navigate your day-to-day life. So it's finding more of a connection to who you really are at the soul level. the spiritual level. With Aries North Node in the 12th house, it's again being comfortable doing things on your own, hidden, away from others, and not having to share or communicate or kind of get the validation for the work that you're doing from another person. It's being very comfortable with being in your own inner landscape by yourself and reconnecting with your true individuality. Also, with Aries in the North Node in the 12th house, you could go through a time of self isolation and you might feel a bit hermited away from the world. And it can be a time where you focus on the things that you've spent a lot of time ignoring. So, as with the same as with the 8th house, this is going to be a time for you, and the 4th house as well. It's going to be a time for you to kind of do that inner work. Stay, do things that are gentle for you, peaceful, healing your mind, healing your body. The 12th house is associated with ashrams, places of healing, hospitals, and jails, essentially where people go to heal. So with Aries North Node, you may find yourself being more introspective or maybe less interested in the mundane everyday thing or the everyday task. So if you notice that you're starting to change or alter your views around, for instance, your day-to-day work, just know that it's a phase, and if it can bring you into a depressed state or a nostalgic or forlorn state, again, keep in mind that this is a part of the evolutionary process for you. And for the next year and a half, you are being called into yourself. So for those of you Taurus risings who are very outgoing and like to, be out there in the world, this might just be a much more internal period for you. We have now Gemini rising with the North Node in the 11th house. So with Gemini rising, you are coming out of your shell. If you had a shell to begin with, you are being focused on, you have been focusing on recovery and recuperation and on your spiritual path for a really long time. But now it's time to get out, connect with people, make new contacts, network, and put yourself into group situations. You may notice a natural pull towards new friendships, group hangouts, finding associations that reflect your true self. Old interests that you used to find enjoyable are starting to fall away for you as you emerge from your chrysalis. So don't worry, don't fret if you used to find pleasure and enjoyment in certain forms of activities, but then notice yourself starting to change. That's a natural process. And also, what tends to happen is you tend to meet new people once you start initiating that new path that you're on. And let's see, getting out and hanging out with people in real life. We have Cancer rising. So for Cancer rising, this is the North Node is in your 10th house. That means that this is a big year for you when it comes to your career. It means that you're going to be making a lot of steps to initiate your progress. This is a year where you're going to be thinking a lot about your legacy of what you want to leave behind, what you've been working towards, and whether that still is in alignment with what you want to accomplish by the end of your life. The goals and ambitions that you have are, this is where you're going full force. It is also quite possible that you might seek greater responsibility within your area of expertise, or find that you've reached a pinnacle and that maybe you need to shoot even higher. Who you are in the public eye is changing as well. And whether that be a title or a new way of identifying yourself professionally or personally, you will notice that your public persona will go through a big shift with each eclipse that happens during Libra and Aries season. Your role within the family is also shifting, and you may find that you are not as available for them as you used to be, or that your opinions and expectations can limit or hinder your growth. Their opinions and expectations can limit or hinder your growth. So take this time to push yourself. Put all of your effort and energy into it now, because this is where you're going to see the amount of growth just skyrocket. Also, you may have to confront or talk about what your own ambitions are with your family in a way that isn't reactive or angry or pushy, because that can happen where you might feel the tension or the resentment building if you've traditionally been taking care of or focusing on collaboration and compromise with your family for so long that now it's your time to focus on what you want. Sometimes resentment can build, but that's just something to keep in track with the South Node in Libra in general because of the people-pleasing tendency that Libra has. So we also have Leo rising. So Leo rising, y'all have been going through it with Pluto in the 7th house or in the 6th house, with Uranus in your 10th house. So much change with the North Node traveling through your 9th house. This is taking you for a adventure. Leaps and bounds are being made to explore and gain more experiential wisdom of this beautiful planet. You're putting yourself out into the world to understand, push yourself, and evolve your understanding of a certain topic. Perhaps a big move is in the works throughout the next year and a half, or perhaps you are planning a big adventure for the sake of expanding your sense of self and independence. Also, with the North Node in the 9th house for you, it could be that you are wanting to advance yourself in your education, take on more of a challenge, challenging your what you know to be true. And you might find that you yourself are feeling more ambitious and challenging other people with their viewpoints. So you might find that you're becoming more outspoken for the next year and a half of sharing your opinions, sharing your beliefs, and then also learning how to compromise and navigate etiquette with conversation around hot topics such as politics and philosophy, where normally you're pretty confident in those areas, but with the South Node in Libra, you might find some situations come up, especially in Libra season, where you're being asked to question where you got that information, where you heard that info originally. And so you may have to reevaluate the facts for yourself. Just be open to pushback. Be open to the challenge of being pushed back when it comes to sharing your opinion, because that's going to help you to become a stronger debater, but also conversationalist. So for the Virgo risings, all my Virgo risings, you have the North Node transiting your 8th house of sex, death, and rebirth. So this is a time when you are taking a big risk on yourself and your sense of stability when it comes to your finances and also opening up your vulnerability. When the North Node is going through the eighth house for you, Virgo, it means that you're taking charge when it comes to your own mental health. So you might start a new regimen when it comes to maybe a new therapy. You might decide that now is the time to conquer or battle that addiction or behavior pattern that has been holding you or locking you in a mental jail cell. Also, with North Node in the eighth house, is taking risks financially. And that's a very vulnerable thing to do. So, the eighth house represents our shared resources. And oftentimes, what happens when, for instance, we couple up, we get married, or we are in a serious relationship with somebody, or even just a business partnership, the whole act of merging your resources can be really intimidating and also emotionally challenging for some people, because that's having to let go of a certain amount of control when it comes to your sense of safety and security. So you're going to take some risks around that and initiate opening up to communicating about maybe some fears that you have, or being open to discussing those fears, or maybe mental blocks around vulnerability. The next year and a half may bring you to understanding yourself on a very deep level, and can be a great time to work with a therapist specifically to change behaviors and reactions that no longer serve you or that you don't value anymore. Also, because the South Node is in the second house, you're going to be letting go of old values that old relationships and partners had placed onto you. So you'll notice when that maybe you have a value system or a something that you care about that really isn't what you care about, but it was just adopted from an old relationship or something that someone else said that you'd held on to as your own truth. So that's also what you're going to be navigating, is all of the things in past relationships that, like personality traits or just certain little values that we have. You're going to be, slowly stripping those away in order to get to the foundational, truest form of you. So essentially, you're not going to, like, okay, I'll give you an example. Like music, right? When you get into a relationship, you tend to adopt the certain things that your partner likes because that's just what you do. And you're like, maybe you don't really like jazz, but your partner does, and you find an appreciation for it. And time goes by, maybe you break up, and then later you realize, like, oh my God, I don't have to listen to jazz anymore. What a relief. Like, that's what I'm talking about. That sort of thing where you adopt certain values that other people have, just letting them go and realizing that they weren't yours to begin with. Also, I jumped ahead a little on the map or on the chart, but also too is because the second house is associated with your senses and your relationship to food. So you may be noticing that you are reevaluating your relationship to food. Boom. Next, Libra rising. Last but not least, so the South Node is going through your first house of self, and then the North Node is going through your seventh house of relationships. So the next year and a half will be quite motivating for you to show up in your relationships the way that you want others to show up for you. This is the time to look critically in the mirror and identify how your behaviors can contribute to your relationships, whether for good or ill, because you will be going through a significant shedding of old identities while the North Node is in your seventh house. The relationships that you make or maintain throughout this period will become very important and significant to the development of your sense of self. You're also learning how to assert your needs for independence in your relationship and initiating difficult conversations before they become bigger issues than they need to be. So, because of the North Node in your seventh house, it actually means that you are going to be focusing on relationships even more, that you're going to notice your tendencies in relationships and your codependency in relationships and working on initiating being more independent within the relationships that you already currently have. And also, it might mean that you're going to be seeking out relationships that fulfill this sense of self or identity that you are realizing is maybe lacking, or something that you want more of in your life or more of to embody. You're seeking that in other people. So you'll also notice too where you are lacking, or where you need to develop a stronger sense of self when it comes to relationship, or a stronger self-awareness when it comes to your relationships and who you are in the relationship. Also with North Node Aries in the seventh house, as you're learning how to initiate relationships more and get what you want out of them. Like I mentioned before, instead of waiting around for that person to do the thing that you want them to do, but you're sitting there kind of waiting and contemplating, rather than just doing it yourself. So this is the think less about yourself, do more for other people aspect. South Node in the first is you're getting out of your own way, which is blocking you from initiating the kinds of interactions that you want to have with other people. So you're putting yourself out there, you're taking a risk, you're initiating, you're putting yourself into new relationship situations and scenarios to learn more about yourself. So this is the time to date. If you are single, to date around, meet new people, make connections, learn about yourself through that process. If you are in a partnership already, then it's time for you to acknowledge how your tendencies to the codependent tendency to defer to your partner for something first. Where are you less motivated or less initiating in your relationships? You're learning to overcome those needs or insecurities around initiation in relationships. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you. Those are the nodes through the houses. So, if you would like to book a reading with me, you can go ahead and do that at themysticparlor.com. All the booking information is on there, and my schedule and calendar is available on there as well. If you have questions, read through the website first. And if you haven't found it, then you can reach out. What else? I think that's it, everyone. We went through it. We looked at the charts. Now you know what to expect and what to focus on. And you should be completely and totally ready for the next year and a half. I will be putting out a month ahead video soon, so look out for that. Month ahead videos come out the first week of the month every month, and then also considering doing weekly lives to do weekly astro updates for you all, because I miss doing Instagram lives and interacting with you all, but I just need to get off of Instagram because, you know, there's an ebb and flow with social media, and I think Instagram's just on its way out. So we'll see. Anywho, thanks for joining. Until next time.